Welcome back to No Invite Necessary. This is where I share real stories of the hustlers, grinders, dreamers, and doers who have faced life's toughest challenges and came out on top. Not only stronger, but wiser and way more fulfilled. I'm talking about practical resilience, growth, and transformation. This show is for anyone who's ever felt sidelined or underestimated. Whether you're finding inner peace, rebuilding after a crisis, or making waves in your community, here is where I spill the tea with my guests on their hustle and the lessons learned along the way. Remember, it's your journey, your hustle, your rules. Now, in my last episode, Trusting Life's Detours, we talked about the unexpected twists and turns that life throws our way and how they often lead to growth and opportunity. If you haven't listened yet, make sure you check it out. Now, today we're diving into rebuilding after burnout, a topic that hits home for so many of us. Burnout can derail even the most driven individuals, but the rebuilding process is where transformation truly happens. Now, I'm honored to have a very special guest and a very special friend in my life, Guildia Lopez, as a guest today. She's a powerhouse CEO of Brothers and Briefcases, and she has not only built an incredible organization dedicated to empowering Black men, but has also navigated the profound effects of grief and burnout in her own life and business. Her story is one of resilience, strength, and purpose. Let's get into it.
No invite necessary. No invite necessary podcast. On the road.
All right. So I have a very special guest. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in because our topic today, as we've already shared, is rebuilding after
Mm,
burnout. Right. So,
mm,
guilty.
mm.
Before we get into that, let's just introduce the people. Like, how do we even know one another?
Oh man, I slid into her DM. I slid into her DM. I had seen a
Yeah.
story that she shared about her great grandmother, and I was like, "Oh my god, this
Mhm.
is so special." And I kind of just slid into your DM, and you were so welcoming. From there, we just built this relationship, and we didn't even get to see each other until 2021, 2020, 2020.
That
When we
was
went to DC.
That was 2020. Yeah, because we went for the
March.
march,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. We went to the
It's
mall.
I did I have never one life experience I share with no one else. I have never marched for the culture, for our people, with anybody but that one right there on the other side of the screen. So I value just who you are and just your ability to be so genuine and so caring because essentially we were just two strangers on the internet. Her people don't know my people. Like
Yes,
we
that.
didn't go to school together
Yeah.
and we just connected and I just always I've always wanted to tell you this. I just have always valued our the uniqueness of our friendship in the sense of yes, we don't speak every day and we may go months without, but we can always just tap back in and we also speak each other's
Mhm.
language, if that makes
Mhm, mhm,
sense.
mhm.
So I appreciate you and I love you. But I had to get you on the pod because your story is incredibly it's compelling, it's inspiring, and it's not done, right?
Not done.
It's unfolding. Let's just bring the people back to where everything started for you.
Oh man, where did everything start for me? How back do we want to go? Because I feel like burnout. I don't think we realize how much burnout takes play into our childhood, into like us being first generation or something, right? So like whether we are first generation in this country, whether we are first generation to go to college,
Mhm.
all of that pressure creates a burnout. Like seriously, for
Yeah.
those who are just joining us, I was not born here. I was born in Guatemala, and I'm first generational. So I'm first generational to come here. I'm first generational to go to college. First generational to work in the places that I work, travel, and first generational entrepreneur. So all of that has been a pressure that creates burnout.
And let's just touch on real quick because you mentioned where you're originally from, but what I've observed of you as first your friend, but also just as a supporter of your brand and your business, Brothers and Briefcases, is that I have observed you being very impactful in different spaces because you have always had these sub layers that you've had to navigate your way through
Mhm.
culturally. So that gives you some great advantages that a lot of people do not have because they are not where you're from with another
Mhm.
culture, with a whole nother
Mhm.
language, and then a whole nother
Mhm.
language,
Mhm.
and then coming into an American culture. So can you kind of walk us through like how that part of your upbringing enhanced or got you to where you are today?
Um, Being Garifuna, so for those who don't know, I am Garifuna. I was born in Guatemala, so nationality wise, I am Guatemalan, right? But culture people, I'm Garifuna, which
Mhm.
is essentially our people came from West Africa and landed in St. Vincent and created this culture where West Africa and Aqua, which is the Tainos of St. Vincent. Um, Being Garifuna, we are brought up to be very spiritual and very resilient, which have played a part on how I've
Mhm.
navigated the world, especially America, right? So in Guatemala, I came
Mhm.
here when I was 9. I was already in the 5th grade. So essentially, I already had a character of who I am as a person, right? Um, but coming
Yeah.
here, it's so black and white here in America. In Guatemala, it's a
Mhm.
classism thing. You have a little bit of money, you have some, a home, you have
Mm.
that. It's different. Here is literally black and white. And I came here and I was raised in the Bronx. So and the Bronx is Latinos, is
Mhm.
African Americans, all of that. But I don't look like the traditional Latina in their eyes, right? I don't look like Jennifer Lopez. So I
Mhm.
necessarily
Mhm.
didn't fit in that space, which was okay with me because I identify more as a black woman. Yes, I speak Spanish. Yes, my last name is Lopez. However, I'm a black woman. I've never had no other luxury to say anything else because the first thing you see is a black woman,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
those, just like you said, being having to navigate, right? So now I'm this black girl going to the school. I come home, it's Garifuna, right? Like my mother's only speaking Garifuna
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she wants me to speak English and understand English, but Garifuna culture, Garifuna food, Garifuna music going on at home. I am black to the world, right? When you see my last
Mhm.
name Lopez, now you want to speak Spanish to me. Now you want to question, how do I speak Spanish? How do I do this? Navigating
Mm.
all of
Mhm.
these, right? And then you go into college and you go into the corporate world, you still navigating all this type of layers. You understand? So
Yeah.
I say all of that to say that I believe being an immigrant child, a Garifuna immigrant child, has been a very essential, part of the reason why I do the things that I do and how I do them.
Mhm. And I wanted you to unfold that and unpack it and all of the other typical podcast terminology, for the sense of because everybody's unpacking something.
Everybody,
Everybody got a bag.
everybody,
Everybody got a bag. But I wanted you to touch on that because you mentioned the resiliency, and I've observed just the nuances of how your culture has develop your resiliency and giving you a very specific definition of what that means for yourself. So, how do you connect your culture's imprint on who you are as a woman, who you are as a business owner, who you are as someone who has survived many things um, on the topic of burnout?
how do I connect that?
Like, do you feel that there's a particular cultural influence,
Mhm.
or are there differences to the resilience that you
I
have?
think, not I think, I know that I've done what I've done and I've survived what I've survived because of my ancestors. And I'm not saying other people's ancestors ain't doing
Mm.
what they got to do for them, but because again, again, right? Our culture is so spiritual, right? I know that my
Yeah,
grandmother's prayers was been keeping me going. I understand that
yeah,
when she said I was a special kid, that I am a special individual. I'm a special woman, right? So
yeah.
um I've survived, and I've again, the resiliency has been because of my ancestors, because of where I come from, because of who we pray for, because of the things that we do,
Mhm,
that other cultures might not do, right? Like, um
mhm,
you and I have spoke about it, like, your grandmother used to make you a bath, and she used to be like, don't do this, and like
mhm,
all the little things that some people might find weird, some people might think is voodoo per se. It is part of my culture.
mhm.
It is part of um my resilience. It is part of how I grew up, like a
Mm.
grandmother's prayer is a strong prayer. And again, I've
Yeah.
survived because of that, you know. I've survived because of that.
Mhm. So in you surviving, you grew up in the Bronx, mom, dad, like, how did that get you to the point where now you're out, or how did your family get you to the point where you step out into the world and you are in college and you getting your degree? Like, what set you on that path?
So for me, curiosity. So I was always a kid that loves to study, right? So um I didn't start living with my mom until I was almost 10. So coming to America was not only
Mhm.
a culture shock, it was also a family shock, because I
Mm.
didn't know my mother nor my sisters
Mm.
or my stepfather in the sense of like a family, right? Like, I grew up with my grandmother
Yeah.
in Guatemala. I knew my father because he always used to come to Guatemala. My youngest memory of my father is like 3 years old. He bought me a bike. It was an orange and purple bike, So that's my youngest memory of my father. Although my grandmother, my mom's mom, raised me with my cousin, I didn't start living with my mom until I was almost 10 years old, right? So, and then they
Mhm.
brought me here in May, which I'm still in the middle of the school year in Guatemala, and school is finishing here. So I had to repeat the fifth grade, which made me extra upset, right? Because I'm a smart kid.
I
I
understand.
don't know why I'm repeating the fifth grade for. I'm a smart kid. Um,
Why am I here?
why am I
What are we
here?
doing?
Thank you very much. So the curiosity, right? Again, I to this day, no, my sister just graduated. For a long time, I was the only one in my family who held a bachelor's degree. And I am
Mm.
an immigrant child, right? So like everybody else, most of
Mhm.
them were born and raised in America, not necessarily me, right? So that became because
Yeah.
my curiosity, like, if we're gonna be here and this is the land of opportunity, why not take the opportunity, right? So throughout high
Yeah.
school, I've always had mentors. I've always had someone that I could see what they're doing. So when I was in elementary school, all the way to high school, there was this woman named Tasha who was our neighbor, and she was, a college
Mhm.
graduate, worked for a good company, and that's what I aspired to be. Mind you, I didn't know what college was because, again, no one in my family has gone to college, right? So I was just like,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
just need good grades. I need somebody to pay for the school. How can I go about it? And just learn through
Mhm.
it. When you are first generation or a lot of things, you make a lot of mistakes. And again, you have a lot of burnout because you're
Mm.
doing things without no guidance. So you're pulling from different directions, and they cause us burnout. So
Yeah.
um, I went to college just to kind of get away from my environment because I knew that the work was bigger. Ended up going to SUNY Cortland, which was not the best decision for me, but it was the only decision that I thought I had at the moment because, again, no guidance. No one else went to college before me. And I transferred SUNY Cortland to go to Virginia State University. So I graduated from my HBCU. Again, no guidance. Who else have graduated from an HBCU, right? Now kids
Mhm.
are talk, they talk to them about more specifically here in New York City about going to HBCU. But back in the days, they only wanted us to go to student schools because they didn't want us to have all these large, student loans or whatever the case might
Yeah.
be. So graduated from an HBCU again, only person, right? For
Mhm.
inspiration, the only person for my
Yeah.
curiosity. I'm like, what else is out there in the world? Being able to create relationship with people from different cultures. I think that's the beauty about going to HBCU because you get to meet people from the diaspora. So now you
Yeah.
being around different cultures, different people, curiosity. Everybody else that I know either go to school for nursing or go, a home attendant, do construction. No, it's rare that you hear
Mhm.
someone in my side of the family who are lawyers, marketers, entrepreneurs, merchandisers. So what do I do?
Mhm.
What does this marketing degree could do for me? No one was going to school for marketing. No one knew what marketing was. Even me trying to translate what marketing
Mm.
is to my people in Spanish, they're like, what is that? Because in Guatemala, teachers or licenciados, right? Lawyers,
Yeah.
doctors, like marketing. What is
Yeah.
that? What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, the reason y'all want that McDonald's is because of marketing. you know?
Yeah.
like, uh,
The people behind the brand.
okay,
Yes.
right? So, um, I say all of that to say, like, my curiosity has being a curious kid, standing 10 toes, right? Because again, when you're a child, 10
Yeah.
toes look like you being disrespectful. Being out
Mm.
yourself look like you being disrespectful. So as a kid, as a
Yeah.
teenager, I got into a lot of trouble because of like this is what I want to do. I want to know what this is. Like, if I'm going to fail, let me fail. But just because you don't know what it is, that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't want to know what it is. So being curious
Yeah.
helped me get to where I've gone and continue to go. Like, I want to know what it is. Just because y'all don't know it, y'all don't understand it, y'all never experienced it, that doesn't mean that I don't want to do it.
Now you mentioning the curiosity aspect because I am temporarily retired.
Hello.
Mhm. Prayerfully forever retired from marketing. But that is something that we share in common because marketing is you have a formal degree in marketing. I don't. I'm self-taught, but that's something that we connected on because it does require a very unique approach to creativity in a business sense and also the curiosity. You have to be curious about not just performing well in your job, but you perform well in your roles and what you put out into the market because you want to understand the consumer.
Mhm.
So, with you going, being very courageous and stepping out and going to a HBCU, you're getting this degree, you're breaking new ground in your family. You're literally tilling untilled soil in your family and you make this accomplishment of getting the degree and then what was next for you?
So, I had a summer under the bridge. It's a joke that my friends and I have. We stayed in
Mhm,
Virginia because we were like,
mhm.
we're not going back to New York unless we got a job, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the winter before I graduated, I randomly applied for a job at Tiffany and Co. for the winter break, and it was in merchandising. I
Mhm,
had a degree in marketing and merchandising, so I was like, Tiffany merchandiser, we just gonna get in there somewhere somehow, right? So I did the job during
yeah.
the winter, and they loved me. They wanted me to stay, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go finish this degree that I've been busting my butt for. Right? Like it ain't no sir.
Yeah.
So I went back to school, and they were like, call us when you graduate, and if the position's still available, we'll offer it to you. That's how much they love me. So I graduated.
Mm,
Wrote them an email. It took them a little while to offer me a job. So my first job out of college was the Tiffany and Company, doing merchandise. Uh,
say it again for the people. Come closer
the first
and say it again.
job, my first job out of college was with Tiffany and Co. As a merchandiser. I was in charge of the Charms collection for anybody who's familiar. So I was in charge of the Charms collection, and they just have really launched the Charms collection. Again, being curious, I'm like,
Mhm.
what? How can we market this? How can we get this to sell more? How
Yeah.
can we tell a story, right? So I was at Tiffany for about 6 years, and then I went into Cartier. From Cartier, I doubled into other things, and then I went back into fashion. I worked for Fendi for a while, and then my mom got sick, and I kind of like let that go for a little bit, and went into Victoria's Secret, and the pandemic happened, and then in between that, I started
Tiffany's, Cartier. Who else did you say?
Fendi, Fendi,
Fendi, mhm.
Cody,
Victoria's Secret, the people with the angel wings, yes.
Victoria.
Let's just take a pause and big up HBCUs and how much I like to play in HBCU faces and think that HBCU graduates don't get to work at conglomerates and legacy brands.
Say
Yes,
it
this
again.
woman invested the
Say it
time to
again.
get the knowledge. The HBCUs, baby, are producing excellence. Okay, so I had to call you out on that because that is nothing to, just kind of glaze
Oh, for
over.
sure.
Those are very, very big brands. So you make your way all the way to Victoria's Secret. Now I get that for those who are tuning in and watching or listening to this, you may be approaching the topic of burnout specifically from just work. And again, as a marketer, I know that those brands probably stressed you to some limits at some times. But you get through that because clearly you're resilient enough to transition. You shaking and you moving. You putting your time in at the brands, you're getting the experience, you're building your resume. And then the pandemic happens. And then you mentioned that your mom got sick. And how did that start and where did that take you?
So, I you mentioned Brothers and Briefcases earlier, right? So I founded Brothers and
Mhm.
Briefcases in 2017, which became my
Okay.
um my happy place because the corporate world was burning me out, right? So it became my happy
Mm.
place. 2019, my mom got sick, and it was quick. She got sick in May, by July she passed away. So now it's like the burnout of not know the uncertainty of not knowing if she's gonna pass away today, tomorrow, the next day, because
Yeah.
the doctors is like she could have 2 months, or she could have a year. Like we just don't know, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So psychologically, although my body wasn't saying I'm tired, my emotions
Mhm.
were saying, "Oh, baby, you're tired," right?
Yeah.
And then she passes away. I
But let me ask you this, how could you tell, like, what were those emotions? What did you recognize in yourself that you said, "Okay, mental note, I'm reaching a point."
um numbness. It
Oh,
was
you were just kinda just floating. Okay.
just floating, just numb, just like it gotta be done. It gotta be done. It gotta be done. Like crying, who crying? Why y'all
Mm,
crying? Why y'all? It gotta be done. It gotta be done. Just
yeah.
like when people's hearts stop,
Mm.
just numb.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
because that's not who I am, like I'm a person who likes to articulate her thoughts, her emotions. That was
Yeah.
the IG. Now come back now, because you can't be in there too long, because you're gonna stay there.
Yeah,
Come back, right? So that was the first mental note. Like
okay.
I understood that things needed to be done, but it was like, why you not? Why you not crying? Why you not sad? Why you not? What's happening,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Because it was so much happening so quickly that I was like, and the easiest thing to do was just float, just
Yeah, yeah.
you know. Then the pandemic happened, right? Now the whole world's
Mhm,
trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And although a lot of people were scared during the pandemic, it was my quiet time. It was the time that I was able to figure out what was burning me out, and if it was worth me feeling
mm,
this heaviness. Was it worth it? Was it worth all of
mhm,
this? Because if you think about it, I've been on the go since I was 10. You gotta do good in school. You
mm,
gotta learn the language, learn the culture, do good in school, graduate high school, go to
Yeah.
college, get a good job, get an apartment, get a this, get a that. The pandemic was kind of oh, I don't gotta do none of that. I could just sit. Yeah, the
Yeah.
world is trying to figure out what's gonna happen tomorrow, but God is good and my God is good. If this is
That he is
okay,
all the time.
if it's meant for us to just this is it, this is it. But I ain't gonna stress about what I don't know what's happening. So it gave me time to kind of be like,
Yeah.
grieve your mother, grieve the past, because again, I think that part of our burnout too is not um coming into terms that we don't only grieve things that we lose to death.
Mhm.
We constantly grieving
Mm.
and we hold on to it,
Mm.
and it makes us tired and essentially burn
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
right? So what's not serving you,
Yeah.
Gildia? What's burning you out? Why do you have 1,000 tabs open? It gave me the chance to do that. And then I went, once they opened the borders, I went home. I went home to Guatemala and in
Mhm.
4 months, 4 of the best months of my life with my dad. Then I came back.
Mhm.
And then being here 21 days after leaving him, he passes away. So now I gotta go back and bury another
Mhm.
parent, right? So, but now because I understand what burnt out look like, I understand what pressure looks like, I understand what grief look like because I just lost my mom, and the
Yeah.
world just lost so many people. It was a different type of grief, a different type of
Yeah.
tire, a different type of give yourself grace, a different type of that.
Yeah.
And understanding that going the burnout ain't worth it, child. Mm-mm. Sit down, take a moment, take a breather.
Yeah. It was times when, like while you were experiencing that, you were trying to articulate to me what you were in the moment of processing. And it wasn't something that you said, it was someone else. I can't remember what I was watching, but she too had lost both of her parents. And I'm summarizing it, but she more so said, like, this is an experience that I've never felt before. Like, she compared herself to an orphan. She was like, I feel like I'm now an orphan late in life. And it made me think of you like, damn, that's really what my friend is experiencing. And she's having to navigate who is she on the other side of that. And I hear you when you say that the grief can burn you out because it's just processing a lot.
Proce-
It's just processing so much.
Processing while life is still going. Life is still going. Life don't
Yeah.
stop because you're
Mhm.
grieving. Life is still going.
Mhm.
And the process is a burnout, right? Like me processing it, me trying to articulate it, me trying to explain it, me um, you know, as you know, I'm the only one that my father and my mother had together. So I don't even share this grief
Mhm.
with no one else, right? So like
Yeah.
all of this is just I'm tired. I'm tired.
So when you felt that tiredness, like I guess what prompted you to make a decision or to just take the next step forward, and what was that next step forward for you?
Um so after my dad passed away, I stayed home. I contemplated staying home indefinitely. I was like,
Mhm.
ain't no reason for me to go to America because America's stressful, you
Mhm.
know. Uh,
Mhm.
but Brothers and Briefcases is bigger than me, so that was a part of it, right?
Yes, it is.
Um,
Mhm.
so I had to make a decision like Gildia, you have to learn how to balance things better. Saying no has to
Mhm.
become more part of your vocabulary because that's burnout, right? Always
Yeah.
being available for people. Um, your
Yeah.
sisters are older, they can make their own decisions. You need to let them live their life. Just kind of like started evaluating what was making me tired, what was making me burn out, right? And understanding that
Yeah.
um, we get so caught up in corporate America and don't even be liking us like that, right? And understanding that, girl, it don't matter what you're gonna do. There's gonna be somebody in here who ain't gonna like you. There's gonna be somebody in here
That
who
part.
you ain't gonna please. It's gonna be somebody in here,
Yep.
right? So, releasing expectations,
That's good.
releasing
That's
expectations.
good. For yourself and other people, or what were the
For
expectations you
both,
released?
right? Feeling like you in
Mm,
your mid-30s, you should be here, and you should be here, and you should be this,
yeah.
right? And then for others, is like expecting others to show up for me the way I show up for them. Because then that's another tab,
Mm,
right? Another tab, like, why is this person not doing what they
yeah.
do for me? And then, and they didn't show up for me when my mother passed away, when my daddy passed away.
Yeah.
You know, people are gonna be people, and you can only control what you do, who
Yeah.
you do. I mean, what you do, who you are, and that's it. So expectation. That's
Yeah.
when it started releasing expectations of myself and
Mhm.
others. You know, and
Okay.
living for the
So
now.
you began to live for the now, and I've intentionally not taken a again another podcast word deep dive into what how special Brothers and Briefcases is, because I wanted listeners to just be able to understand who you are,
Mhm,
what has molded and how you've remained malleable to the shifts of
mhm,
life, for you to create something as special as Brothers and Briefcases. So you mentioned that that was a driving force as to why you came
mhm.
back home, and you just check out like screw America. I ain't, mm. So what was how did the burnout that you felt from grief, how did that lead to you having like this being reignited
Oh,
to continue forward?
um, so, again, it's bigger than me, right? It's bigger
Yeah.
than me, and grieving my mom and my dad at the same time, but differently, made my
Mhm.
purpose even clearer, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
because my mom passed away from liver failure, which means that somewhere somehow she wasn't unpacking what she needed to unpack, and she was just keeping it in and hitting the battle, right? We're gonna keep it a buck.
Yeah.
My father,
Mhm.
83 years old, dies of a heart attack. Those are two different type of griefs,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah,
So again, going back to
absolutely.
like releasing expectation, living from the now, knowing your purpose. God put brothers and briefcases to me in a dream. So I know that it's bigger than me,
Mhm.
right? I understand that.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
became the flame. I don't want to live life. No, I don't want to just be going through life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what put the fire under me, because I was like, why do you want to stay in Guatemala, Gildia? What are you running from? We already know
Mhm.
America is America, but why do you want to stay here?
Yeah.
And the answer was, I want to stay here because going back to the numbness,
Mhm.
you know, going back.
That became a comfortable
Yes,
place. That numbness was a
yeah.
comfort. Yeah.
I could be sad. People understand why I'm sad. I lost my mom. I lost my dad. Nobody's gonna question why I want to stay here. Why I'm not chipper? Why I don't want to
Yeah.
laugh? Mind you, I'm not typically a sad person. I want to laugh. I want karaoke. I want to kick, right?
Mhm.
I could be sad because no
Yeah.
one is going to question why I'm sad, because so much grief has happened. But that's not me,
Yeah.
right? So, understanding my purpose put that little fire under me, like, "Hi,
Mhm.
G," knowing how proud my dad was of what I was building. Brothers and
Mhm.
Briefcases? Like, okay, because it's bigger than you. It really
Will you share what was the dream that God gave you about Brothers and Briefcases? Because you mentioned it, but we wanna know more. What was the
so
dream?
the name came to me in a dream. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I was like, Brothers and Briefcases, what is this? Because remember, I was
Yeah.
doing fashion. I was at Fendi. Like I was like, is this a
Mhm.
fashion line? Like what you telling me, Jesus? Right? Um, what are you saying
Yeah.
to me? And we understood. We understood from a long time ago that black and brown men were being killed by the police. We understood that. We stole Rodney King. We
Mhm.
knew about Amadou Diallo here in New York. We understood that. We knew that for a fact.
Yeah.
However, because of this, our computers, our phones, social media, it became more visual,
Mm.
right? And I wanted to, I don't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted to have the world, have our community experience black and brown men the way I've always experienced them. Not negating that there's a small
Mhm.
percentage of black and brown men who are here just running, okay,
Crazy. Foolishness.
foolish. And it wasn't, it did not become a brand. It did not become something else until after the first event, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know what I need, man. I don't know nothing about sponsorship. Who gonna give me some money?
Mhm.
No Instagram, no website, no logo. It was literally just something that was heavy in my heart. And I'm like, there's so many women empowerment spaces and not enough spaces for black and brown men. I wanna create that. Right? So first panel happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was such a great experience. And still, friends, still, I was like, it's just gonna be a little thing that I do here and there, blah, 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 taka, taka, ta, boogadoogadoo, right? And I'm still doing it, and I'm still seeing how it's growing. And now I have a logo, now
Yeah.
this, and that. Then 2019 happened. My mother is dying, and now I have to decide, do I do another panel, a B&B panel event, or do I stay home and just see whether or not she's gonna take her last breath today. And something
Yeah.
said, "This is your mission. This is your mission. It's
Yeah.
nothing you could do for her. She is in the bed." And me debating that and
Yeah.
understanding, Gildia is bigger than you. I prepared my host. I had 2019. The event was July 13th. My
Mhm.
mother is deteriorating. July 13th, I told my host,
Mhm.
I said, hey, we're gonna do this event. And everybody was like, oh, you so resilient, your mother's dying, it's bigger than me. Right? This is at the
Yeah.
moment, sometimes we God speaks to us and we be thinking is our other thought. No, it's somebody whispering in your ear, right?
Yeah.
At the moment, I didn't think it was that until I sat down and analyzed what was happening. I prepared my host. I said, hey, if they call me today and telling me that my mother took her last breath, you're gonna have to do this event by yourself. But we are
Mhm.
gonna have an
Mhm.
event. We do this annually. People are
Yeah.
expecting it. I owe it to the community
Mhm.
that I built, right? Bigger than me, right? Bigger than me. Okay,
Mhm.
that was the first sign. Like, I God, I see you. You gave it to me. You better make this work, Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the first time I realized it was bigger than me. July 13th, we do the event. July 23rd, she passes away. Cool.
Mhm.
Bigger than me, right? My father, the pandemic happens. I had a commitment with a
Mhm.
brand to do, they had sponsors, so we had to make an event once the world was open, right? My father passes away
Mhm.
January. I come back from Guatemala in March. April. I've never done an April event, but God said, you need to do an April event. Bigger than me. I should be grieving.
Mhm.
Okay? How many days of
Yeah.
bereavement they give you? I should be grieving. God said, oh no, April 21st. Your next event. I'm like, April? I don't ever do events in April. That's crazy. In the pandemic, we just opening up. We just started opening up. April, your next event. It was a big event. It came
Mhm.
to me like, yo, this, I needed this.
Yeah.
Bigger than me. You understand what I'm saying? Bigger than.
Yeah.
So he has spoken to me in different ways. First, he gave me the name in the dream. That's why I tell people I'm just a vessel, right? And because I'm just a vessel,
Mm.
the navigating burnout, navigating grief, navigating lost of friendship, jobs, or whatever becomes a little
Yeah.
easier the more I understand my purpose because it's bigger than me.
Yeah. It when you were describing how you had to when you told the host, "Look, if my mom passes, we still having this event. You're gonna have to host this by yourself." I had this vision of like an oven, but specifically a stovetop, because oftentimes we look at our energy, we look at our mental and emotional and just faith capacity as a fire pit, when in reality, I feel that God truly gives us a stovetop type of setup for our
Mhm,
abilities. And while you had burnout on one iron, you said, look, that one might be out, but we got to turn up the other one and keep it on high. So I think that just gives people a really great example that we can acknowledge our
mhm,
feelings. We can do what we need to do to accurate or properly rather process our
mhm.
feelings and not, like get in a habit of being numb, which you were doing. But like you said, life still moves on and there are still assignments and commitments and missions that you've been given that you have to execute.
Mhm.
So how on the back end of losing your mother, losing your father, and still having to move forward, like in the moments where you had to just kind of sit with yourself, how did you process that you had these dual emotions and dual tasks going on? Like, what were you talking to yourself about?
I was talking to God, to be honest. I was talking
Mm.
to God like, I keep it a bug. I'm like, yo, bro, you better, you better show me.
Hey, JC, was
You better show me
was shaking.
something. Baby, all my life I had to fight. Okay? I'm over here
Mm.
like, what's happening? Okay? All my life I've been fighting since I was 10. Show me something. Show me something.
Yeah.
Just talking to God and feeling, just like you just finished saying, like acknowledging what I was feeling, whether it was sadness,
Yeah.
anger, happiness, and not feeling ashamed. Because I think that one of the things that people do when they lose someone that's close to them, see
Hmm.
if you ever felt this way, is that they don't expect you to smile anymore or laugh because you just lost somebody,
Hmm.
right? So it's like, no, I
Hmm.
feel happy, so I'm laughing. That doesn't necessarily mean that
Yeah.
a song is gonna come up that's gonna remind me of my daddy or my mama that I ain't gonna cry. But at this moment, I feel happy. So it was acknowledging
Yep.
every feeling that
Yep.
I had, talking to God, um, being by myself, because again, people think they're being helpful when they're supporting what's happening with you, right? Or when they
Yeah.
think that they're showing up for you. And sometimes that's more hindering than anything else. Because sometimes all you need is somebody
Yes.
to just be still with you or do something else. Like, I don't want you to every time you see me, you want to talk about what I just lost or what just happened. I know what I just lost.
That adds to the burnout. That's draining.
I know.
And we really have to stop that. We really have to get out of the habit of that, but also, like, imagine how annoyed you would have been if every day I would have been texting you, "You gonna get past this." No, you're not. These are your parents. You don't get past this, but that's a habit that people make to try to get you to make like a sharp left out of your
Mhm.
emotions or to just make themselves feel better about your
Mm-mm,
loss, but it's like it ain't about
mm-hmm.
you.
It's gonna
No.
be okay.
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. What in Spanish is paciencia. Have patience. Patience with what? Hmm?
Mhm.
Patience with what?
What? Please.
Enlighten me.
Please
I want to know.
explain.
Patience with
Please.
make it make
Mm-mm.
sense.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it was a lot of talking to God, and it's been a
Yeah.
process, right? Like I want everybody who's watching this and listening to understand that grief is an ongoing process. Experiencing burnout, I believe, is an ongoing process too, because we could be good for once
Mhm.
and then something happens and then we like
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
understanding that we as humans are in a ongoing process of different type of
Yeah.
emotions, and one of those things is experiencing burnout. And how do we process the experience of burnout? And one of the things is giving ourselves grace, having a great community. It's being still. And you know what's wild? I mean, it's wild, but it's not
Yeah.
wild, right? Like I had lung injury back in 2022, right? I had surgery. Ladies,
Mhm.
please go check yourselves, even if you're not 40. I had
Go to the doctor.
please do. Okay? And don't let them tell you you too young. You okay? Had
Go.
surgery was infected. I had to take antibiotics. I've never taken antibiotics in my life.
Mm.
Antibiotics injured my lungs. By the time I got to the hospital, my oxygen was high 70s, low 80s, aka I could have
Mm.
basically lost oxygen into my brain. Right? I was in the
Mhm.
hospital for 2 weeks. You know what type of stillness that is? You know what type of stillness
That's that sit down.
that's
That's that sat
That's
down.
that sit down, right? So I understood that
Yeah.
that stillness too was very important, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, understanding that burnout come in different areas, understanding the importance of staying still as well.
So we've all experienced burnout in some shape, form, and fashion, and you touched on grief, of course, but you also mentioned, just with jobs and friendships and relationships and things of that nature. So, in just to summarize or to, I would say the better word is to compile your experiences with burnout. How have you connected your experience with the work that you've done with Brothers and Briefcases for the burnout that black and brown men feel it really throughout their entire life experience? So how has that helped you?
So I I understand why God made me the vessel. How about that? How about I
Mm,
understand why he made me the vessel, although I'm not walking the life of a black man, right? I
yeah.
understand what it looks like when you're trying to show up in the world without acknowledging that you are burned out. So what do? I create
Mhm.
a safe space for you to understand that you could leave whatever, you could unpack. You could leave whatever baggage that you have here, right? So instead of us talking about directly what's burning you out, let's have conversations of celebrating you, right? Because once we
Mm,
celebrate you, you're gonna tell us why you felt burned out, why this space is important, why
yeah.
the conversations that we have are not important for you, right? So continuing to create a safe, luxury,
Mhm.
welcoming, loving space uh, has been a priority to me, especially this past couple of years, because I
Mm,
understand what it looks like when we are hiding our burnout, and I can't even
yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
what they do because they experience this being experienced, and this is their when their mama's womb, right? So my job is
Yeah.
to create this space and continuing to create this space and show up for them in a way that I provide grace and also hold them accountable. And accountability could look like different ways. And one of the ways that it could look like you need to take a rest because you burned out.
Yeah. I've always appreciated the work that you do with Brothers in Briefcases because, in general, just as clearly this election has taught me to not say people of color as Black people.
What did I say at the beginning of the
Okay.
podcast? I've never had the luxury.
Never had the luxury. We can't identify as anything else. So it's like with the work that you're doing and knowing the experiences of Black men, I think sometimes it's just so important because just as Black people, the trauma, the cultural burnout that we have had for centuries at this point, there are studies that show that things like that become ingrained in our cellular DNA. Like we're born, the Bible says it and science says it. We born with bad days ahead of us. We ain't even got to sign up for it. It's already on the bill. Okay. It's a gratuity that we ain't asked for.
And it's
Okay.
25%. Okay.
25%. And the science confirms it as well. So it's like the Brothers in Briefcases is so needed for Black men essentially because so many Black men, even for those who are born into the most normal best scenarios, two-parent household, no surface, no trauma that you can view from the surface, but it still impacts men from birth when there is trauma, there is burnout that their mother is experiencing when she's literally carrying them. So for you to create these spaces for them, I'm sure that you've been told like this is one of the first spaces that they find like-minded
Mm.
men, but also that they see a Black woman who is intentional in every single step that she takes with this brand with creating a space for them. So I just want to thank you for that because I know a lot of brothers they don't get it, they feel frustrated, and I think that that's why we have the angry podcasters that we have today.
Yeah. They need to,
They need to go to a Brothers in
hello,
Briefcases.
today, right now, at this moment. Come talk to
Come
me.
on in. Sign up.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging that. I've been getting a lot of thank yous lately, specifically the past
Mm,
2 years, right? Because like you said, they could come from the best scenario possible. They still become someone's statistics, someone's something, right?
yep.
Um
Yep. Yep.
Brothers and Briefcases is my love letter to Black men. With that being said, it will always
Mm,
be intentional. Always be intentional.
mm,
Um, to the death
mhm.
of me. Like I don't do this for clout. God put it in my heart. God used me as a vessel. So I'm dedicating it to them. It's my love letter to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um yeah, and I've been blessed to have amazing men cross the stage as panelists, amazing men who have
Yeah.
come and be in the audience and been inspired and have changed their life because of attending a Brothers and Briefcases event, and blessed to be able to like mold the future, right? Because we get the privilege to sponsor high school students to be able to see themselves in these men, right? For these men to be able to speak to them truthfully because they come from the same neighborhoods that they coming from. So, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world, even when I'm burnt out.
Okay. Well, I want to first again thank you for Brothers in Briefcases. Thank you for coming on the pod. Thank you for being transparent with sharing about burnout from a different perspective. Because, like I mentioned before, a lot of people just focus on, I hate them at my job. No, nigga, you burned out from some other stuff. Let's talk
For life.
from life, from
For being
life. So
even
your
for being
perspective
black in
is
Canada.
valued and is needed. Like, come on. Like, no. So now that you are just very self-aware of where you're at in your process with burnout, and you are just moving full steam ahead with Brothers in Briefcases. What is next? Like, let the viewers and viewers and listeners know like what to expect. What's next from you?
What's next for me? Brothers and Briefcases is, I want my baby to grow and continue to grow, right?
Mhm.
I don't know
Mhm.
if I'm fully retire or temporarily retire like yourself in marketing, unless I'm about to marry somebody rich tomorrow. But who's gonna be like, baby, you could do B&B, a
It
hundred
can
percent, 100%.
it can
Hey,
happen.
hello. But for Brothers and
Mhm.
Briefcases, we want to continue to grow it, right? I mentioned to you before, I would love to do a Brothers and Briefcases in Chicago and Philly and Atlanta and DC, and
Yeah.
places that I know Black men are there and they will benefit from it.
Yeah.
Um, I am going to create a coffee table book so that even if you don't, you're
Mm.
able to have this in your home. So that's exciting. I'm working on
Okay.
that. Um, and eventually I would love to have a podcast, really talking to Black men about their experience, right? Because an event we could say was too much in an hour and a half, right? When it's
Yeah,
three
yeah.
other panelists with you, but when it's a one-on-one, we could another podcast where we could unpack more. But
Come on.
but yeah.
We need it. Y'all might be getting an exclusive right
Oh,
now. She said there's a Brothers and Briefcases podcast down the pipeline. Are my ears hearing me correctly?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes, I need this. I need that.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need that.
And the topics that we have discussed that they will be comfortable sharing with the world. Oh, baby,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Oh, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. So I can't wait because there's nothing like it out there, right? And even if they
Mhm.
try to, they don't got a Gildia. So you get the,
They ain't got the sauce. They ain't got the
they
sauce.
ain't got the
Mm-mm.
sauce. They ain't got it. They ain't got it.
Mm-mm.
But so
Mm-mm.
yeah, so that's what's next. For Brothers and Briefcases, I am trying to figure out where can I take my marketing world in. Because creativity is always running in my
Yeah.
head. But for Brothers and Briefcases, it's continue to grow the brand, going to different cities. So anybody listening, y'all could give us a huge partnership. Holla at me, okay? Because
Baller.
we need the money.
The money, the
The,
cha-ching. Imma put a little cha-ching in there.
the and the podcast and the coffee table book are the two major things that, yeah, 2025 we're gonna make it happen.
Okay. Okay. So, where can everyone find you online? How can they connect with
All of
you?
that great stuff.
Let them know that
So
information.
Brothers and Briefcases is
Yes.
Brothers and Briefcases website, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, we there. And for myself, I
Mhm.
am your favorite Lopez because I am your favorite Lopez
She is.
on Instagram.
She is mine. See, I'll buy a ticket to her concert, not
Not
the
the,
other
not
one.
the other one.
Not the
Not
other
the
one.
other one. She ain't really from the block, y'all. But as well as she ain't really from the block.
This one? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being one of the very few specially selected guests for season 2 of No Invite Necessary. I appreciate you so much, friend. I thank you. I
I
love you
love you too.
deeply. I love you deeply. All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Make sure you
All right.
always tune in. I'm so proud of you. I am very proud of you. Okay? You continue to push forward. I've been inspired by you from the minute that we met, and your growth have been amazing. And for you to be able to continue to bet on yourself, you've been doing a version of media of communication since I met you, and for you to continue to bet on
Thank
yourself
you.
and commit to yourself and understand that you're a priority, I am very, very proud of you. Very proud of you.
not gonna make me cry through this good makeup. I'm gonna cry off camera. She know what she be doing, y'all. She knows. She knows. I told y'all she speaks. We speak each other's language, okay? She speaks the language. I'm sending a very big thank you to Gildia for joining me today and sharing her story. Her journey is a testament to the strength and resilience it takes to rebuild after life's toughest seasons. To our listeners, I hope this conversation has inspired you to look at your own journey of rebuilding with courage and intention. Remember, burnout is not the end. It's an invitation to rebuild with purpose and clarity. If today's episode resonated with you, please share your reflections on Instagram at No Invite Necessary using hashtag No Invite Necessary. And don't forget, the No Invite Necessary Season 2 workbook is now available. It's packed with prompts, exercises, and challenges tailored to each episode, including this one, to help you dive deeper into your own journey. Visit noinvitenecessarypod.com to get your copy today. Thank you for being a part of this incredible season, and I can't wait to see you next time. Remember, it's your journey, your hustle, your rules.
No invite necessary. No invite necessary podcast. On the road to success, it's a grind.